People, deluded, I'm back again. Good morning, and I hope you're all doing well and safe. At this point, I've done the preview in relation to City and offered my comments, but I touched briefly on from a tactical opposition or a tactical point of view. And to be honest, football isn't the same. I like doing tactical videos, but things don't change in football. I mean, it's 22 players trying to put the ball in the back of the net. There are some things I'm wary of, especially playing a team like City, because I know City, by their own standards, they've been poor this season. Again, by their own standards, because a poor listen, their season, again, by their own standards, their season's been poor. As an Arsenal fan, I could only dream of having a season coming second and being off Liverpool by however many points City are, and that shows the gulf in quality. Now I can sit here until I'm blue in the face and looking at my skin tone, we'll be here a while talking about Man City, how great their players are individually, collectively. Pep Guardiola deserves a lot of praise. The players do for implementing his tactics, but it's Pep Guardiola at this point, his name is synonymous in football. But in not even a negative way. For all that you could praise City about, how good they are technically and the goals they score and things like that, off the ball, for me, they're equally as impressive, because what you do off the ball affects it. People don't see, 9 times out of 10, people just see the lovely pass and the lovely dribble or the finish or whatever. People don't see the sequence, and playing City, that's what scares me. I've got confidence long term with Arteta because he understands game management, positioning, tactical fouls, all of these sort of things I feel we've lacked, but we're still off them. And City is a thing where I've seen us play them time and time again. Don't get it twisted, they're a quality side, but we've gifted them what I call cheap goals. And it's not that they've necessarily, and like I'm saying, take nothing away from how they've played against us, but I just feel we've given them cheap goals. I look at Kevin De Bruyne at the Emirates either last season or earlier in the season, when he's just on the edge of the area unmarked. 9 times out of 10, whenever Sterling scored against Arsenal, there's a sequence of play that could have prevented that. When the ball's on the left-hand side, typically players are not aware. Midfield runners arriving late into our box scare me as well, people. Off the ball, I said it in my preview, but they're a good team in making runs for the sake of making runs to disrupt the opposition, and they will punish you if you switch off for a second. And things. We'll get into it, and apologies if I'm not holding it correctly, but typically you'll see at some point our shape off the ball will be like that. That doesn't mean we're going with Aubameyang and Lacazette up front. We could be doing a thing like this. Aubameyang's there. We've obviously got our fullbacks. Let's spread them out a bit. We've got our pivot, and we've got 3 man up front, people, essentially, and we've got our pivot in midfield. It could be like that. It doesn't have to be 4-4-2 as you typically know. You've got Pepe, you've got Aubameyang, whoever's through the middle. Aubameyang's normally out here. We need to be narrow. Apologies if I'm not holding this straight. We need to be narrow. City are a great team. We need to be narrow. We need 2 banks of 4 people. We need everybody sitting in and tucking in and protecting the defence, people. Obviously, I've taken a cam and made them here, but they need to tuck in. Whoever it is, you get the point. Tuck in. Be difficult to break down. Be extremely difficult, because then you look at it, folks. You're playing a team like City, where, let me keep them narrow to paint the example. Let's say a thing where they're here. City man's got the ball. My man's searching for the ball. You've got a striker. You've got my man. You've got wingers. Who else should we have? Should we have fullbacks as well, just to paint a better picture? Let's have some fullbacks, people. Now, I'm going to illustrate it. Yeah? This is the scary thing for me about City, because the man in possession is someone you got to watch for. I want to see someone press, but once he's pressed, what happens? If he's not aware of his shoulder, the ball goes out to him. Now, there's 2 options. It typically gets spread out wide. Now, naturally, we're going to shuffle across. We're going to shuffle across. We're going to shuffle across. This is always a big problem. Sergio Aguero makes centre-halves, when you're looking over your shoulders, I need to see you're aware of him at all times. You could switch off in 89 minutes, he punishes you. So that's one. But then it's him and him. Like, they're occupied. How many times do you see us concede a goal like this? My man's not picked up. My man arrives deep into the box. My man's coming from the other side. We need to be aware. And 2v1 situations, people. 2v1s are of equal importance. Let's take it all back. Let's go all the way back. Let's make the midfielders drop deep for the ball. Let's have a Cam there. Let's have Sergio there. Let's have our fullbacks a bit out wide, a bit more to paint the picture. Let's have our pivot back in here. Let's have our strikers back out there. Our wingers, sorry, back out there. Again, I'm doing this with my left hand. I can't really see people. But I'd imagine you could see a sort of 4-2-3-1 of sorts of what it would be with 1 striker. Obviously, 3 behind him and the pivot. Now, we need to support. City are great at doubling up, yeah. Their midfielders will pull out wide and offer an angle similar to what you see Xhaka actually do when Saka has the ball. But this is what I'm scared of, people. 2v1. Walker needs no license to go forward. Neither does their wingers. They need to go back. You need to go back and support, and the same needs to happen on the other side. And that does scare me, people. There's several things. It's the late runners. It's the late runners into the box for one. It's the players not being marked off the ball. It's the 2v1 situations. It's the way their midfielders pull out wide slightly to create to create problems for the opposition, and it's the ball over the top, man. When Kevin, and I keep using Kevin, all of them can do it, but it's typically Kevin. Once he gets that ball out of his feet, they're not afraid to play it long. Things can change in a second against City. And like I said in my preview, I want to win. Of course, I would kill for a point. If we do lose, if and when the inevitable in which we do lose, can we please not lose by a cricket score? Can we leave that pitch with some sort of face? If we lose to the better opposition. We lose to the better team. We didn't lose because we was just coalescing and just moving mad. And like I've said, typically when we lose games, especially the top six, for me anyways, don't get it twisted, 9 times out of 10 we are playing poor. But we gift cheap goals. We really gift cheap goals. Like I'm not even criticising it, because I go back to Arteta's games against City and Chelsea and United, I think we were quality in both games. I have nothing but praise for the team. Against Chelsea, obviously, game management. We conceded 2 cheap goals in the last 10-15 minutes, and that's the difference between 3 points and this. I don't want to be the guy that always says ifs and buts, because ifs and buts don't win things. If I was taller, I could have been a basketball player. If I was taller, I might be a footballer. Do you get it? If I wasn't born with a willy, I'd be a girl, wouldn't I? Like, we can't do ifs and buts in life. We can only deal with the facts. And I'm saying that to say, okay, we can go back over the season and say, if this didn't happen, if that didn't happen, if this didn't happen, and we could probably draw. How many points would we have on the, hypothetically, in hindsight? It's about eradicating things. The damage has been done this season. It's about learning while we can learn. It's not a free hit, but learning while there's almost nothing to play for this season. And not making these mistakes next season, because I think Arteta doesn't deserve to have to be dealing with players that don't learn. I don't think fans have to be deserving to deal with players that at this point, if they're not learning, sell them more, because where our club is. We sit 9th, people. We deserve that because of how we've been moving for years and how we've been this season. But that should wake everything up. I'm not trying to, rant and rave and things, but, there's very few players that walk into a top 10 type team. Maybe that's an exaggeration, but there's very few players in this team that could play for respectable Premier League clubs, in my opinion, if they weren't here. I'm not saying they can't get moves, but there's only Torreira could definitely get a Premier League team, in my opinion, a top Premier League team. The same goes for Aubameyang, Martinelli and Saka. Beyond that, you could say ifs and buts for the other players, but they're not defos. So in short, people, organisation, man, 2 banks of 4, that 4-4-2 you typically see us, whether it's the 10 behaving like a striker or what, people. And on that topic, removing these lot, that's kind of why I'm favouring Torreira, because don't get it twisted, I think you need a Joe Willock in there, Ozil, people that have been playing in that role typically, people. But I just feel when it gets to the 4-4-2 thing, like if you go with a cam, typically it's the cam that's like you see with Ozil, he's the second striker sort of when we're pressing, or if we're trying to, if you don't understand what I'm on about, let me just make a makeshift, another alternative reality. Let's just say these 4 are on the ball and it's here. You'll typically see Ozil be the guy to go and help press with them, and to be fair, that's good on Ozil because it kind of absorbs him from tracking back and stuff like that to a degree. But this is why I want to go with a flat midfield for people, because don't get it twisted, you'd need someone else to press with them. But for me, you need that handbrake, man. You need that handbrake. When we're going to press, you still want to press as a 4-4-2, but I'd like Torreira to sit behind sort of thing, and you go and press with them, and we're a bit narrow, so it's almost like he's part of it behind them, but he's going and pressing. Not Torreira, sorry, anybody that's near. That could be Sabas, that could be anyone that's near. That's why I want that bit of a handbrake, people. I want that bit of a handbrake behind the ball, so it's Torreira there. So in theory, when these guys do make these runs, and I'm not just putting these on for no reason, these are goals I've seen, make sure at least someone's aware, because midfield runners, you've got to go back. We're improving at that. Xhaka especially is improving at that. But what we do off the ball is going to make the difference in this game, people. It's going to make the difference. Make no mistake, I haven't been focusing on it, but once again, we need to be brave on the ball. We're probably not going to win the lion's share of possession. It's Man City, and we can't match them for that. But I don't want to. When we get the ball, we need to be brave. Don't be afraid to make a mistake. You make a mistake, and this is me saying this. You make a mistake, so what? I want to see us play with fear, man. Fearlessness. I don't want to see us looking at City and thinking, they're Premier League champions. They're playing Champions League. You know, they've got world-class players. All of that is true. But football is 22 players trying to put a ball in the back of the net. How many of you in school or in Sunday league or whatever, you played a team with, and you don't get twisted, played them 9 times out of 10, you probably lost. But how many times did you lot play against a team and you thought, yo, our team is of no match to them. Them man, they are sick. But you went and won for whatever reason. Whether that team didn't have chemistry, whether it didn't have a lot of things, people, you won. Football's won on a football field. Football isn't won with statistics. Football isn't won with all these things off the field. They're all good indicators and they all, you know, can help you make the difference. But once that first whistle goes and the last whistle goes and things like that, anything can happen. So I want to see us be brave, man. Play with that fearlessness. Nobody expects us to lose, so it's not really a shock if we lose. Again, the only thing I want you to be fearful of is shame. Shame to leave Etihad, Manchester, you know, our first game in however many months and weeks and all them things. No fans. You're going up to Manchester and you're losing 4-5-0. That's the only thing I want these players to be scared of. If you make a mistake, F it. We go again, sort of thing. Be fearless, be brave, play like this is your last ever game as a professional footballer, sort of thing. Because I feel psychologically we're making the ways, but we've got a lot of improvement to make. And within reason, it doesn't matter how good Arteta is in terms of tactics and stuff. It's how these players need to be strong enough psychologically, and Arteta, to be fair, recognises that, which is why his man management, in my opinion, is superb. But enough of all of that. I'm going to get out of it. It's been a pleasure speaking with you lot, people. So thank you for listening. Please comment, like, subscribe, share up the vids, do the rest of it. And yeah, man, see you all on Wednesday. Hopefully we get a victory. But like I said, I'm prepared to lose. Prepare for the worst, pray for the best. On that note, people, it's been a pleasure. DG.